Good. Happy New Year's, Jeff. Happy New Year's, audience. I want to welcome you to Discover Yourself with Fred. And I want to start this year off in a segment that I think is really interesting. I coined it Tweeners and IHSS. Now, kind of joking around here, do you know what a tweener is, Jeff?
Like 12-year-old girl or
No,
boy?
no. A tweener is a person that's between taking care of his kids and taking care of his parents. Like you're sandwiched in. And it will happen to a lot of the audience there, and it may be happened to you right now. And if it already has happened to you, there's some things I can tell you that I discovered in my life that's going to make a major difference in your life. So I call it tweeners. So I ended up having to take care of my parents when my dad got to be like in their 70s. And so they needed help. Sometimes the adults just need a little bit of care. It's like cooking, cleaning. Sometimes they need major care. But this segment's all about, how to take care of your parents, your loved one, somebody in your family that's disabled, to be able to keep them in their home and have the county pay for it. So that's a really good thing and a good blessing. A lot of people are not aware of it. So what I want to do is I want to tell you, about It's All Good. It's all good. There used to be an African king, and he had a friend, and his friend would say, it's all good. Everything that happens is all good. So this show, I want to start the year off by planting a seed to you that it's all good, and I'm going to explain to you why. So this king decided to go hunting one day, and his friend said, okay, I'll go help you, and he loaded all the gear and stuff, and as they went hunting, the friend loaded the gun, but not being that experienced, he loaded the gun wrong, and when the king went to shoot, the gun backfired, and the king's thumb got blown off. Now, that's tragic, but guess what his friend said? His friend said, it's all good. And the king says, no, it's not all good. And the friend said, no, it's all good. So then the king decides to think about it. He says, you know what? I'm going to put my friend in jail because, blowing off my thumb, he needs to learn his lesson that it's not all good. And so what happens is the king puts his friend into jail. And the friend said, it's all good. So the friend's there in jail for a whole year. And then what happens is that the king decides to go hunting. And as the king decides to go hunting by himself a year later, he gets captured. And we have a saying, things are never the same whenever the hunter gets captured by the game. So the king gets captured by cannibals. And so, wow. So the king is thinking about his friend, he goes, wow, I got captured, and I wish my friend was here. And so when the cannibals started making the fire and string the king up, they noticed that he was missing a thumb. So they let him go because they're very superstitious people. And being very superstitious people, they let him go, and the king says, well, my friend is right, it's all good. And so he went to his friend, let him out of jail, and he goes, well, I apologize for putting you in jail. And the friend goes, it's all good. And the king says, no, it's not all good because, I put you in jail and you've been in jail for a whole year, so it's not all good. And so the friend says, it's all good. And the king says, well, I don't understand. Explain it to me. So the friend says, just think about it this way. If I didn't blow off your thumb and you didn't put me in jail, we both would have gone in hunting, and we both would have gotten captured by the cannibals, and we both would have been eaten up alive. So therefore, it's all good. So I want you to think about this year and think about it. It's all good. If you hear background noise, it's all good. Everything is all good. So it's all good about your family situation. So I want to start with that little story and tell you what happened about my mother. About 15 years ago, my mom and dad were starting getting older, and they started getting sick. And so I was doing real well business-wise, and so we provided people to stay in the home to take care of my mom and look after them, to cook and clean and take care of them. So as time went progressively worse, it started costing us a lot of money to take care of the family, which we did. But then during really, really tough times, we depleted all our assets, and we heard about a friend of ours, Mrs. Davis. And Mrs. Davis just passed away this December, and that's why I'm really bringing this up, because I'm going to bring you full circle. Mrs. Davis just passed away, but at her funeral, I reminiscing that it was because of Mrs. Davis that I found out about in-house support services. Mrs. Davis, she was convalescent to a wheelchair, and she couldn't feed herself. And the County of Sacramento provided services, in-house support services. So I looked into that, but I realized it's going to take some time for me to get those services because my mother had assets, she had real estate, and she had money in the bank. And in order to qualify for this program, you cannot have, a lot of assets. So that's one thing to remember. So what happens is Mrs. Davis was getting support, and I learned about in-house support services. So mind you, every county has an agency called in-house support services. So you go to the agency and you apply, and you want to find out how to apply. So I'm going to talk about a couple of items. Is first of all, the person that's disabled, your loved one, so your mother, your father, your brother, sister, anybody has an illness, that's called the recipient. Okay, that's one person that we're talking about. The next person that we're really concerned about is the person that's taking care of it. So you have to have somebody that's in need and then a family member to take care of it. The reason why we call it in-house support services is so that the person can stay at home and family members can take care of it. It's so much cheaper for the county to do it that way than have that person be in an institution. Okay? So what started happening is my dad had passed away, and I'm living here in San Jose, and now somebody has to take care of my mom, and we depleted most of our assets. And so I applied for the county, and they said yes. Even if your mom owns a home, if she can't be alone by herself, then she needs to have what's called protective services. My mother's situation, she was diagnosed with dementia. So if you have somebody that has dementia, like I said, being blind, or just elderly that can't take care of themselves, this may be a good program for it. So what happens is the federal government, the state government, and the county provides the services. Okay, it's called in-house support services. So I'm going to move my slide here and talk about it. We talked about the recipient, and that's the person that's in need. And I'm going to tell you a little story about while I was at the funeral services at Mrs. Davis. I was telling people about how I found out about in-house support services, but there was a gentleman by the name of Mr. Silva there, and he said, wow, the reason why he didn't attend the funeral because he just attended a funeral the same day for his mother-in-law who also had dementia, and his wife took care of the mother for the last 2 years, and they weren't aware about in-house support services. And they go, wow, had I known what to do, we could have gotten support. So basically this message is for people, if you have an elderly, if you have a disabled person at home, the county has, if you qualified, services there to help your loved ones. Okay,
So what it comes down to, in a nutshell, is that rather than you having to pay money out, you can actually get money paid to you.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, the county will pay you to take care of a loved one. And what it does, two things. It keeps the loved one at home, and it saves the county and everybody from putting your loved one in an institution. They say a person thrives better if they're in their own home. So that's why they call it in-house support services.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a good program, Jeff, and a lot of people are not aware of it. And that's why I thought we start the year out by talking about that. So let me tell you some of the things that if you do qualify, so you got to have two qualifications. The recipient have to qualify for it, the elderly person, the disabled person, or the person in need, and then the person that's going to provide for them, okay? So, but let me tell you what you can get paid for, and that's a good question. So we call this housework. So you can get paid for mopping and bathroom floor cleaning, cleaning bathrooms, making beds, changing linens, cleaning sinks, cleaning stoves, cleaning ovens, refrigerators, vacuum, sweeping, dusting, emptying the trash. Now, can you imagine if you have a loved one and they need that and you're doing it anyway, that possibly you can get paid for it? Okay, so those are the housework. Now, you can also get paid for meals. You know, a lot of kids right now are already cooking for their parents. Now just think, you can get paid for it. If the county, the doctors, and the establishment see there's a need, you can get paid for it. So you can get paid for preparing meals. You can get paid for cleaning up meals. You get paid for laundry service, taking clothes to the laundry. You can get even paid to go shopping.
So like when you would be doing their shopping, you would be getting paid if you were shopping for the recipient.
Exactly.
Or preparing a meal for the recipient.
Exactly. Yeah, you
I
get paid,
understand.
and this is ongoing. It's so once the county has allocated, you know, your qualifications, then you can get up from, say, minimum, say, 20 hours a week, or a month, to 283. That's the maximum hours.
283 hours a month.
Month, yeah, that's equivalent to in this county, Santa Clara, right now, February 1. Right now, we're at $12.81 an hour, and we're going to go as high as $13 an hour next year. Okay, and a good thing too is as of this year, we're going to start getting overtime pay.
And a lot of people are already doing these things
Jeff, in
for
this
their loved one that they don't even know about this program.
Yes, yes. And the people that know about the program that qualify in this county, in Santa Clara County, Jeff, there's about 18,000 people. And in the state of California, there's about over 300,000 or 400,000 people that are doing this.
So the 18,000, that's how many people are doing it currently in Santa Clara County.
Yes.
That's not how many people are eligible.
No, those are the people that are actually doing it.
collecting.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then those average persons, they get between 80 hours a month. You know,
Times
take care
that
of
$10 or $12 that you mentioned.
Yeah, yeah. So it's
Gotcha.
good supplemental income, especially, you know, the big thing in this county is affordable housing. So this would, you know, definitely supplement affordable housing. And, you know, a friend of mine says, you know, all you have to do is ask. And this is a program you have to ask.
Right.
You know, you call the county. You know, one of the things that I suggest for those people who have computers, I did this in preparing this preparation. Just go on the computer and look at IHSS, In-House Support Services. And this applies to every place in the state of California. And it applies to outside states too. You know, every state has it, but I'm just aware and familiar with the state of California.
I can put the number on the show here.
Okay, that's good. And so let me tell you what else you get paid for besides, you know, you get grocery shopping and other errands. How about dressing the person? You get paid to dress the person, grooming, bathing, bath, bowel bladder, menstrual, helping the person walk, move in and out of bed, help them off a seat or into a vehicle, repositioning, rubbing the skin, assistance with prosthetics and medication. And so if you need to just apply medication, you can get paid for that, okay? And then we have what's called paramedical services, and that's called to check the blood sugar level, and that's what my mom has. My mom has diabetes. So for those people that check other people's blood sugar level and blood pressure level and their temperature, you actually can get paid for that now. And then you also get paid to accompany a person to take them to appointments, to medical appointments, doctor appointments. So that was a good introduction to the program. And so what I want to do right now is jump into the second phase right now, and that's the recipient, okay? And that's the person that needs it. So I'm going to read from here to kind of say what the program is, and it makes it a little clearer. The In-House Support Services program is a federal, state, and locally funded program designated to provide assistance to those eligible, aged, blind, disabled individuals who, without this care, would be unable to remain safely in their own homes. Okay? IHSS provides services according to the IHSS recipient ability to perform their daily activities that can include, we talked about earlier, feeding, bathing, dressing, housekeeping, laundry, shopping, and meal preparation, and cleanup, respiration, bowel movement, bladder care, moving person in and out of bed, rubbing skin, and to prevent skin breakdown. Accompany the person to the medical and paramedical services and protective services. So that's kind of putting it in a nutshell. And we'll put the number there. Is anybody that qualifies for this, you can hire your own person. So you qualify as a recipient. You go to the county and you say you have a need. And it's good to read the handbook first, what qualifies you. Like I said, sometimes you have too much asset. Sometimes you need to get rid of some assets. Sometimes, some things you need to do to qualify. So it's good to read the qualifications.
So on this, I believe like probably the people taking care of the person would also be reading that book rather than the recipient themselves.
Yes.
Would that be true?
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, and that's a really good point, Jeff, is because my mom has Alzheimer's.
Right.
And because I'm her guardian and caretaker, I do all that reading for her.
Right.
But yes, so again, it's the sons and daughters, brothers and sisters that has a loved one that has a capacity. They're the ones that need to do that. But in order to apply, they need to apply for the person in need.
Right.
Yeah, and so they're actually doing two applications, one for the person in need and one for themselves. So it's a two-step process. So right now we're just talking about the person in need. Yeah,
right.
Okay. So who qualifies to be eligible? First of all, if you can, you got to have Medi-Cal. So in the state of California, if you're a Medi-Cal recipient, you can qualify. If you're blind, legally blind, I've worked and helped somebody who was legally blind. You can even if you're partially blind, and you with doctors' paperwork to show to back up your sickness or ailment is what you need. You have to be disabled, so any disability will qualify for that, or 65 years of age or older, and unable to live at home safely without help. So that qualifies a lot of people. And so if you're not currently receiving Medicare, Medi-Cal, please contact the agency down here that I have here, and that's the Assistant Application Center. It's 877-962-3633, and that's 877-962-3633. And those, if you want to apply for Medi-Cal, that's the first step.
877-962-3633.
Man, you got a good memory. Or you see the numbers written on my forehead. Okay. So what you got to do is you got to go to the local county and you got to apply for what we call social, you got to apply to the social department services and ask a social worker to determine what you're eligible for. And again, I suggest you read the handbook before so you know what services you can get paid for, right? And how much time is allotted, because all those services that I read off for you, Jeff, the state has certain hours that they allocate for you. For cleanup and stuff. So depending on the amount that you need, the recipient will apply with the county, and a social worker will come to the house, and that's why I suggest that you read the handbook, because in the handbook will tell you the more documentation that you have from a doctor, if you have, if you can document that, your parents left the stove on, or they left the house and mention they got lost, or they flooded the bathrooms, or they burnt their food, whatever the situation is. But if you can document that, then in the application process, when the social worker comes out, then they're going to ask you questions, and they're going to do a needs assessment. And what I tell people, you can check your own needs assessment. What do you do for your loved one? And then if you can back it up with the doctor's documentation, good chances are that you'll get those services.
Even like preparing special meals,
Yeah.
like certain food.
Yeah, like in my mom, she's diabetic, so she can't eat a lot of food that have salt, sugar. She has to have diabetic food. So
Right.
That's a real good question. Okay. And so in Santa Clara County, to apply for that, the number is 408-792-1600. So that's 408-792-1600.
408-792-1600.
Man, you must be reading my script.
That's an easier one to
Okay, that's an
remember.
easy one.
Yeah.
Well, that one, since it's that easy, so every day between 8 and 5 p.m., you can call that agency, In-House Support Services. I'll tell you, you'll stay on the phone for a long time. The county is short-staffed, so just prepare to camp out. And I tell people that applying for this is a process. So it took me probably, with knowing the rules and regulations, 2 years before I actually got into the program. So if you think your parents need this now, it's a good time to look into that. So it doesn't hurt to even check into that, because applying is a process. When I transferred my mom to San Jose, it took like 3 months. So be prepared for a 3-month process for the application.
Also, I know something you mentioned that possibly could take time would be like depleting assets.
Yes. Yeah, you got to find out the rules. Here's a good situation, Jeff. I just helped somebody get more maximum hours and helped them through the process, and they got 2,500 more worth of a month, right?
Right.
And I just got a call yesterday. They had sold a piece of property, and because they sold the property, all of a sudden they had income for that year, and that disqualifies them for the program.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's really, it's good to know ahead of time how you qualify, what you qualify for, and then you can, do what you need to do to qualify. Okay. So once you apply for the county is going to want to know, the name of the recipients. Okay, the first and last name. They want to know the gender, their address, phone number, date of birth. They want a social security number. So again, if you don't have a social security number, you can't qualify for this program. You have to have a social security number. Medi-Cal, your Medi-Cal number. They want to know your ethnicity, the language is spoken. In our county, the county will provide services for if you speak, they have interpreters for if you speak Spanish, Japanese, Chinese, Korean. So they want to know what your nationality is, your date of birth, who your guardian is, who the contact person is, and the relationship. So in that situation, I give all my mom's information, and I give my information because I was a contact person. And mind you, I did this over 7, 8, 9 years ago. Okay, so I've been doing this for quite a while. And then they want information relating to the housing. What are they renting? They own a house. What is their mortgage payment? They want to know their medical problems, diagnosed, including the name of their doctor. They want to know the doctor, their address and telephone numbers. And then the client's mobility. They want to assess, can the client walk? Do they need help? Can they stay at home or not? Do they need 24/7 care? So that's that. So basically, that kind of tells you about the recipient, and I just want to see if you have any questions. Was I pretty clear about check-in?
I think we've I believe we have.
Okay. So what I want to do now is move to another segment, and that's called the public authority. So first we gave you the county, the in-house support services. That's where you do the application. And the county has an organization that's called the public authority. And the public authority, they kind of administer the in-house support services. So one of the things that they do is if you already have been approved by the state to be a provider, then they do the orientation for you. And they have what's called provider enrollment. So they do the enrollment process for you. They do the fingerprinting for you. They do the training for you. They've got a lot of classes how to take care of special needs situation, like if somebody needs wheelchair or hoist lift, if they have Alzheimer's patients, autistic, how to do CPR. They have all these classes available. And they also have a registry. So once that you are a provider and you're looking for more work, you can apply to the registry and they will provide you hours. So you can literally work more than 40 hours working between 2 or several clients. So we're talking about getting help for people that need it and also providing employment at the same time. And the public authority is the one that handles it. The public authority also administers the benefits. And some of the benefits that they do, part of being an in-house support service providers, a lot of people don't have medical insurance. So if you start taking care of a loved ones in Santa Clara County, if you work more than 40 hours, you automatically get full medical benefits, full dental benefits, and medical benefits. And the public authority is the institution that administers that.
Yeah, that sounds really great. And just to reemphasize that you don't have to work for anybody else. You could just be the one person, your one loved one or parent.
Yes. The person that's a recipient, they can decide how many hours they have. Right. They can split those hours up between one person, 5 person. They handle that. They become their own boss. And again, it usually ends up the loved one that is the guardian that ends up administrating all the paperwork.
Right.
Okay. So this kind of refresh here is kind of go back here. So we have the in-house support services, and that's county administered, and who pays that is the federal, state, and the county pay that. You have to apply with the county, and you have to check to see what the eligibility is. But we talked about the age, and we talked about those things, and we got to talk about your income level. Then the next thing that you do, you make application. And so we've talked about application for the recipient. On the second segment, we're going to talk about the application for the person that's a provider. Okay? For the recipient, once they have been approved, then they start working with the public authority. And the public authority maintains a record of people in the county that need services. So if somebody is in-house support services approved and they don't have any workers, you can go to the registry and you can say, I need somebody to work for you. Okay, so there's always people looking for work. So that's in-house support services, the public authority, and the recipient. So the phone number again for the Santa Clara County is 408-792-1600. And to capsulize this, and this is a process. In-house support service is a process. It took me 2 years to get my mom on board. Sometimes you qualify right away, but it's an education process. The county provides the services, is there for you, and you have to research that. Again, I would suggest that you go to your browser and you look up and you search in-house support services. There's a ton of information available. And again, you can also contact us at this website. So I think we're kind of wrapping it up, Jeff. I don't think, we got one more minute if you want to say anything with what I covered so far.
No, I think you got everything handled. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll put the numbers and the website address up on the screen too. So.
Well, so I want to kind of remind you about what the king said and his friend, it's all good. So if you haven't learned about the program and you didn't know about it, it's all good. Now you can start. And it's a good way to start the year out. And, this needs ongoing. So I'd like to finish this up, and then we'll go on
with the second segment about the provider.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Discover Yourself with Fred. Well, Happy New Year's again to the second segment of Discover Yourself with Fred. We're starting this New Year's out. We're talking about in-house support services, a program that's available throughout the state of California that a lot of people are not aware of. In the first segment, we talked about the in-house support services, the state, the federal government, and the county, how to apply as a recipient, the person that's in need. And we talked about the public authority, the person that kind of handles and administers this. So what this section that I'm going to talk about is how to become a provider. So again, if you have a loved one, a family member that's in need, in the first section we talked about how to make application. Now we're going to talk about how to get paid. So once mom and dad, brother and sister, niece, disabled person, blind person has received X amount of hours from the state, they need somebody to work those hours. Ideally, it's a family member, but some people don't have family members, and that was part of the discussion. They can go to the public authority and say, I need somebody, I've got X amount of hours a month to take care of my feeding needs or bathing needs, whatever the state is, and then what you would do as the recipient, you would interview people that you want to work for you, and you set the agreement what they're going to do for you, and then every 2 weeks you get a time card, and the recipient fills in a time card, and the provider also signs a time card, and is sent to the state of California, and the state of California will do an automatic deposit to the provider. Okay, so that's how that works. So how do you become a provider? Okay, I didn't know how to become a provider. I know my mom was in need, and for years, I, out of my pocket, paid for people to take care of my mom and dad until I depleted assets, and, what do I do? And that happens, and I say tweeners. We tween a rock spot and a rock and a hard spot. That's easy for you to say.
Rock in a hard place.
Yeah, a rock and a hard place. And that's between, your kids and your parents, You have to take care of it. And you still have to have a full-time job, and you need extra income. So the state of California recognizes that people that are elderly need to be taken care of. The state recognizes it. The federal government recognizes it. And so they've come up with this program for loved ones to take care of their people in need. And so we're going to talk about, to become a provider. So this has important information for prospective providers about in-home support services, program providing enrollment. An IHS provider is someone who gets paid to provide for services to a person who receives in-house supportive services under the IHS program. IHSS program. If you want to become an IHSS provider, you must complete all of the steps outlined below before you can enroll as a provider and receive payment from the in-house support services program provider service. And we're going to go through about 4 steps here, Jeff. Okay. So the first step that you have to do is you have to complete and sign the in-house support services program provider enrollment form, and it's called SOC 426, and you can get it online. So that's SOC 426. And return it in person to the county or the in-house support services public authority. So you can either get that application to the county or public authority, and you can look both those addresses up, either online or in your yellow pages. Okay, and you can call them to get the application. You just call them up, and they'll send you an application in the mail. Okay, so once you complete the SOC 426 form and answer all the questions completely and truthfully, and I say that because if you lie on that, that's a federal offense, and it's not going to do you any good. Okay, you must also report if you had been convicted of any crimes that would not allow you to provide the services. So this program is available for pretty much anybody over the age of 18, providing that you don't have a history of felonies. And some felonies will still allow you to work under the program, but it's not that kind of program for everybody. So there's a qualification program. Okay, so what you have to do is you also have to provide a U.S. government issued picture, like a photo ID, a driver's license, a passport. You have to have a Social Security card. If you do not have a Social Security card, you may use the original Social Security letter from the Social Security Administration showing your Social Security number. The information you provide to the enrollment on the SOC 426 will be verified with a criminal background. So I need to tell you that the Department of Justice, this is something that goes to the Department of Justice. So this is some serious application. It's like a regular job application. So even though you're taking care of your loved ones, you cannot have that criminal record. And I've been with the program long enough that prior to about 4 or 5 years ago, you could have a criminal record.
Now that's convicted, right? Yes,
convicted. But you could have it. Now, you can't. So now, what's the second step? Okay, the second step, once you fill out that form, you also have to get fingerprinted. And you have to go through a criminal background check by the California Department of Justice. The County in-house support services public authority will give you instructions how to get the fingerprints when you turn in the completed Form 426. Do not try to do the fingerprints until you have received the instruction. So what I'm saying is, get the form, do the applications, have them tell you how to get fingerprinted, because they only take it from certain agencies, okay? You can get fingerprinted at some of the local law enforcement agencies, like the police department. I got mine done by the sheriff's department here in San Jose. Or any businesses that offer digital scanning, fingerprinting, or live scanning services. The County In-House Support Services Public Authority can give you a list of those nearby locations. So that's step number 2, okay? State law requires that you pay the cost for fingerprinting and a criminal background check. Fees varies depending on where you choose. The fingerprinting costs range anywhere from $40 to $90. The background check verification, that if you have not been convicted for a Tier 1, and for those people that know, if you're a Tier 1 or Tier 2 crimes, you can proceed to step 3. So if you've been convicted of Tier 1 or 2 crimes, I guess if you haven't been convicted for 1 or 2, then you can proceed to 3. If you have if the background check verifies that you have any convictions in Tier 1 or 2 crimes, then you can still qualify, but you have to read the next section, which I'm not going to get into. Okay, so so that brings us to step 3, number 3. So step number 3 is you got to go to the in-house services program providing orientation given to the county. So you got to go to an orientation program, and if you apply at Santa Clara County, there's a good chance if you go. We usually have them every Friday. We have the orientations at the local union hall, and the public authority is there. So the public authority does the orientation, and then the union does the orientation also. And so once you've been through an orientation, then you can move on forward. So the orientation will give you important information about how the program works, the classes that they have, the rules that you work under, how you get paid, how to fill in timesheets. So it's a job orientation, and there's a lot to know. And if you don't fill your timesheet out right properly, you're not going to get paid. If you don't do your signature. So orientation is very important.
How long is the orientation?
The orientation, I'm going to say, is usually about 2 hours.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it's a 2-hour process. A lot of questions. And at the county here in San Jose, we have literally between 400 and 500 people enrolled new every month. Okay, so it's a lot of people applying for the program. That's why I'm telling people.
So are all like 400 or 500 people there at the orientation at once, or is it different?
Well, we have them once a week on Fridays. Twice on Fridays. So Friday at 9 and Friday at 2. And so, yeah, in order to move on the program, you have to go through the orientation.
So there's orientations basically every week?
Every week, yeah. And then the union and the in-house support services will tell you all the things that you need to know to become a good provider.
Right.
Okay. So at the end of the orientation process, you have to fill in an agreement form, and that's called SOC 846. And that tells you what you will do and how you will take care of your client, and how to report when you have certain situations. And some of the things that you need to know is that you get paid as long as that client is there. So say if your client goes to the hospital, then nobody gets paid. So that's how the program works. One of the things good about the program is once you get initially assessed, you may get initially assessed, say, maybe do 50 hours, right? Or maybe you only get 30 hours. Well, if you don't think you get enough hours based on the person's need, there is a needs assessment. And we can talk about that. And that's why I'm saying is, if a person does their homework ahead of time, they find what the needs are. When the social worker comes, then they can be prepared to answer the social worker's questions in a professional manner and give them the right answer so they can get the maximum amount of hours. Okay? But by signing this document, the 846, you're saying that you understand and agree to the rules that are required for being an in-house services provider. So now what we have is we have covered the provider enrollment, And anybody can be a provider. You got to be over the age of 18. You don't necessarily have to drive, but it's recommended that you drive. It could be a family member. You can do it part-time or you can do it full-time. So it's really what the needs for the clients is. And once you have this, is being a provider is a professional designation. You can get certified to do CPR, respiratory, all kinds of certifications. So, and it's free education, which is really beautiful. The public authority, the county provide this education. So if you don't have a career and you want to become a provider and you don't have a loved one to take care of, you may want to get to the classes, get fingerprinted and go to this process. So I want to see if you have any questions for me, Jeff.
No, that I understand really well, and also I'm understanding that, like, let's say that you are a provider for your mother, who's your loved one, and she is qualified for 80 hours. You probably even could, like yourself, do 60 of those hours of work for her, and there still may be 20 hours that you could have someone from the board you could have come by and do those few things, whatever they are.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes, yes. And one of the things too, Jeff, is being involved with this for a long time, and since I have a few more minutes to say that, there's another thing that's called respite, okay? And the union is looking into that right now because the care provider, they need time off too. And so we're one of the only professions that we don't have sick pay yet. We're working on that.
Right.
We don't have holiday pay, and we're working on it. We just got overtime pay, which is exciting. But what I want to tell you is that there are certain organizations like the Alzheimer's Association, which I'm very familiar with, is they will provide respite care. So another thing is, so even if you're not with in-house support services, but you have a medical patient, you can go to the Alzheimer's Association and say, I need somebody to take care of my mom in an emergency, and they've got 500 hours available.
Right.
Okay, or should I say 500 hours, $500, okay? And
I
then
see.
also they have for the respite care, like me being a provider, I actually got 1,500 in respite care through the
I understand.
Alzheimer's Association. So you got the Autism Association, the Alzheimer's
Right.
Association,
And then I'm also understanding that, so as a provider, if you provide 80 hours a month, then you get full benefits? Is that
oh, it's even better than that, Jeff. It's 40 hours.
40
Yeah.
hours a month?
Yeah, and actually it's 35 hours. It's 35 hours. Jeff.
So that could be as little as 10 hours a week.
Yes.
If you become a provider and you needed benefits, you needed full benefits. If you provided for people 10 hours a week, then you could get, and of course a little bit lower because you said 35, but we'll,
Right.
So that's another
Yeah, so if
interesting.
you don't have any medical insurance
Right.
and you want to become a care provider and you go through the steps that we just talked about,
Right.
you do the fingerprint and then you get on the registrar's board and then you get at least 35 hours, you get full medical and full benefit. And we need to talk about right now, because we need to switch, because we're going to talk about the union, how the union gets involved. And this is a good segue,
Right.
because right now the union fights for these benefits and we're fighting for the county, right? Which I didn't learn about. But so what happens is that in-house support services, like in 1994, was not organized in Santa Clara County. So the county had the program and people were working, but there was no unity with the people. And so people started getting together and say, hey, what are your needs? What are my needs? And they started realizing, well, we're only getting X amount of hours. So if we go to the county, to the board of supervisors, and say, hey, we have more needs, then the board of supervisors in their budget will put needs for us and give us what we need. So Santa Clara County has full medical, dental, and vision. If you go to San Mateo, they have 5,000 members there, and they only have 1,000 slots for medical benefits. So you have to wait, get your seniority before you get your benefits. And so that's why I wanted the last segment to be about the union, okay? So these are all the different parts. And so what happened to me, I found out about the process of enrolling my mom, and then I enrolled my mom, and at the same time I became a provider. And then back in those days, the union started taking out money every month, and that was part of the deal. And I didn't have a problem with it, and I didn't know what the union did. And so I paid union dues for a long time, but wasn't involved, and was kind of apathetic to the union. And so when I transferred my mom to live with me full time, I figured since she had the full hours in in Sacramento, I would get them back in San Jose. So it's a county-to-county program, and they had to transfer. So when I transferred her here to Santa Clara County, I figured my budget, I wasn't going to work full-time, take care of my mom, and if I get the full hours, I could make it. So what happened is I applied for the county, and the first thing that happened is I said all the wrong things. They asked me questions, do I cook separate meals? And I said, no. Do you cook separate laundry? No. It's my mother. You don't think of that way as your mother, but this is a job, and you have to think like, yes, you do cook separate because my mom is diabetic. She can't have bread. She can't have rice. She can't have sugar. She has to have diabetic food. She has to take medication. And so once I realized when my hours were cut, I went and looked at the manual. I went to the union and said, I need help. And that's when the union steered me in the right direction because, again, if you've never done this before and other people have, it's so much easier for somebody to guide you. The county's not going to tell you everything that you need to know. Number one, the county is short-staffed, and the public authority, they will only ask you what they're supposed to tell you. So the union fills in that gap. And so what has happened in 2015, we used to have local unions, and now we have one state union, which is called SEIU 2015. And I'm still involved with the local chapter here. And the reason why I'm involved is because I realize that a union member we negotiate with the county for more benefits. I was a part of the negotiation team where we negotiated our raises. And in February, we're going to get $13 an hour. We're at $12.81 an hour. We're going to go to $13 an hour. One of the fights with the union that we're doing, Jeff, across the United States, we're trying to raise the level of awareness, especially in this county, that $15 an hour is his minimum wages. And that's what we're fighting for.
So just to be clear, when you become a provider, you automatically become part of that union of the SEAI or
yes, it's SEIU.
SEIU
2015. Yes.
Not as good with letters as I am
yes.
with numbers.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you used to be automatically part of it, and there was this court case that said you can't automatically, become a union member. So that's why we have the orientation. It's highly advisable because people don't realize is that you can't fight this fight yourself, to get, just a simple thing that we're fighting for, overtime. Just a small segment for the Obama administration. It's been on the books since 1936 that anybody working 40 hours a week needs to get paid overtime. And it wasn't until the Obama administration said that in-house support services throughout the United States wasn't getting paid overtime. So the county and the public authority was not looking out for the people. So the union people got together and said, you know what? Obama says you need to get paid, and we need to fight. So what we did, the unions went to the state of California and said, you need to pay us. And we fought and we talked to the legislators, and that's what union's all about. It's all political. I didn't realize that until I got into the union, is as long as we have board of supervisors that know what our cause and what our needs are, and if they vote for us, we get those benefits. And it's been a real struggle, and that's why I want to talk to you about the union. So I became a union member, and what happens too is the way the union membership works is that it depends on how many hours you work that your union dues are. So let me give you an example. If you work less than 35 hours, Jeff, your union dues are $12 a month. If you work between 35 hours and 105 hours, then your union dues are $22 a month. And if you work between 106 and 283, then your union dues are $28 an hour.
Or,
A month, excuse me, a month. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
$28 a
Yeah.
month.
So you got $12, $22, and $28 a month for union dues.
Right.
Okay. And so what we do is we have union meetings, and we find out what the common needs are. You know, if you have grievances, we and the public authority sit down together and say, you know, say that you have a loved one that doesn't want to pay you, and you work the hours. How do you document that? You know, you have a procedure where you have a grievance, and the union works you with that. The union also has classes like the public authority. We teach you appeals training if you don't get enough hours. So what happens is with in-house support services, there's nothing permanent. So if your client, hopefully for God, improves their rehabilitation, then those services are no longer needed, and the hours will be cut. But vice versa, if your client progressively gets worse, then you can also go to the county and request more hours. And there's a documentation process, and I teach that class. It's called the appeals. So you appeal for more hours, and I literally help people get more hours. And that's why I'm also doing this segment, because a lot of people are not aware of what the process is and what the services that are available for people. And that's why we're doing this segment.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing
Good.
to know.
So we've got about 7 minutes left, and what I want to do is kind of talk to you a little bit about some of the things that we do as union members, as providers, what I do. Okay, so the way we get paid is we get paid on the timesheets are from the 1st to the 15th, and the 15th to the end of the month. Okay, the timesheets are sent to the recipient, and the recipient puts the hour in. So, but we suggest that you keep a log of your hours, log in, you know, when you worked. Okay, and that so when you have a dispute between the recipient and the provider, you can show what you did, document it, the hours, and 90% of the time there's no problem, but you still want to document it. Especially if you work for 2 clients or more, the state of California right now is giving you what's called travel time. And all this is going to be implemented starting February, where you actually get overtime driving from one client to the next. And that's something that the union fought for. Before that, we didn't have that. You know, you drove from one client to the other, you didn't get paid. Now you not only get that, but you also get mileage to get to travel with traveling time. So those are benefits that the union fought for. So with the overtime, the maximum overtime that you can get is 66 hours is the maximum hours that you can get paid overtime for. You know, anything that you do over that, you're going to get regular time. So you mean the state's putting a cap on that? We have contract negotiations with the union and the county every 3 years. This year we're going to negotiate with the state of California. And we ask the union members, what do you want? What's important for you? You know, we do surveys. And last time overtime was a big thing. Right now the thing that we want is sick pay. You know, we're going to try to put that on the ballot, you know, where we get sick pay. And we actually get, you know, time off pay, you know, respite pay. So that's the thing that we're fighting for.
And a lot of that wouldn't have been available if it wasn't for the union to go fight for it.
Yes, and then what the union does, we have lobbyists that go to the state, to the county, and we call that actions. We even go to the Board of Supervisors meetings. You know, we call the Board of Supervisors meeting, Board of Supervisors, and we tell them, you know, this is what our needs are. You know, we need to stop, you know, abuse in the home. You know, what can you do? You know, we need more hours. You know, people can't survive in this Bay Area working for $12.81, taking care of a loved one. You know, it's not physically possible. So we're going to the county. Some counties, they have to put it in the budget, because this is all taxpayers' money. This is what we pay for. And they budget and allocate in the state and the federal. So we just need to know that there's federal funds available, and then there's state funds available, and there's county funds available. And those state politicians that run these budget committees are the ones that are our allies. And that's how we elect, officials. We ask union members.
And again, a lot of these people, or a lot of people, there's a lot of people that are already doing this, taking care of their loved one without any compensation at all. So.
Yes, and the thing is, a lot of people are not aware of it.
Right, that's
a lot
what
of,
I mean.
yeah, a lot of
there's
people
these
take care of their
people that
loved
are out
ones.
there doing this and don't have any idea that this program exists.
Yes, it's sad to see because when I teach the classes, I have people that have sisters. The last lady that comes to my mind, she has a sister that's totally autistic, that has no support, and by coming to the union meetings, coming to the orientations, they're finding that all these programs and services are available. Again, for me to sit here 7, 8 years ago, I would think I would never be in this position because I had the means to do that. The economy wiped us all out, and I had to go to the county, and thank God. If it wasn't for the county, I would have never known about this program. So I have never had anybody publicly do this, what I'm saying to you right now on this show, and I thank Jeff for bringing it to my attention. What do we do on our next segment? And I'm going, what? I've been doing this part, and he goes, well, that's part of discovering yourself with Fred.
Great idea. I thought it was a great idea.
Yeah, and so this is what I spend part of my time. Times you call me, Jeff, and I'm going, hey, I'm at a union meeting this February coming up. I get the honor of going to Los Angeles and being there from the 4th to the 7th, and we're going to talk about, as a union, what are the needs for all the people in California? 300 strong, moving up to 400 people going to the state and saying, hey, this is the need of the people. So in kind of closing with this, I hope that I talked about tweeners, people that are between taking care of their loved ones and now are in a situation, their parents, they're having, all of a sudden emergency situations, their situation changed, they need somebody to look after them, they can't be left alone anymore, medical situations, physical situations, all those situations. I just want to let you know there's a county program available called In-House Support Services, and I suggest that you look at this segment over and over, contact myself, contact the county, contact public authority. I suggest that you go to the internet and look at In-House Support Services, IHSS. And with that, I kind of want to conclude and see if you have any more questions. Anything you want to say, Jeff?
No, I do not.
Okay, well, I just want to tell you what the king learned, and the king learned that it's all good, so it's all good. So if you didn't know about the program, you know it now, and look into it. It's a process. I wanted to let you know it's a process, but it's a good process, and it helps families stay together. And Happy New Year's, and it's a good way to start the year.